Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome the guests of honor today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, online viewers worldwide, welcome to the 2022 Tang Prize Award announcements. I am Grace Huang, your MC for today. From June 18th to the 21st, the Tang Prize Foundation will be announcing the laureates of the 2022 Tang Prize in Sustainable Development, Biopharmaceutical Science, Sinology, and Rule of Law. In today's press conference, the 2022 Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law will be unveiled. To begin with, I'd like to introduce the guests of honor that are here with us today. Dr. Ye Junrong, Chair of the Tang Prize Selection Committee in Rule of Law. Dr. Zhang Wenzhen, Professor of National Taiwan University, College of Law. Dr. Chen Zhenchuan, CEO of the Tang Prize Foundation. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Chen Zhenchuan, CEO of the Tang Prize Foundation, to give us the opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Chen.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Tang Prize Foundation and its founder, Dr. Samuel Yin, I would like to welcome you to the announcement of 2022 Tang Prize in Rule of Law. The Tang Prize was established by Dr. Yin in 2012. It consists of 4 award categories, namely sustainable development, biopharmaceutical science, sinology, and the rule of law. All of them concern the important issues of the 21st century. The Tang Prize in Rule of Law encompasses due process and substantive justice. It champions peace, human rights, and sustainable development in order to serve the common good of human and nature. The Tang Prize Foundation had the honor of setting up an internationally acclaimed award in this field to reward individuals and organizations for their great contributions to the realization of the rule of law, and to encourage people around the world to work together for a better future. The foundation also wants to thank the selection committee and its chair, Professor Ye Junrong, for their tireless efforts. Congratulations to all the soon-to-be announced Tang Prize laureates, and I wish everyone all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Chair of the Tang Prize Selection Committee in Rule of Law, Dr. Ye Junrong, to announce the 2022 Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law. Dr. Ye, please.
Distinguished guests, members of the media, I'm now honored to announce that the recipient of the 2022 Tang Prize in Rule of Law is Cheryl Saunders for her pioneering contributions to comparative constitutional law, and in particular, her work on constitution building in the Asia-Pacific region, by applying her scholarship to inspire and advise constitutional making exercises, often under challenging circumstances, and by consistently broadening the boundaries of comparative constitutional law scholarship through active engagement, dialogue, and collaboration with scholars and political actors at home and abroad. Congratulations, Cheryl.
Thank you, Dr. Ye. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Professor of National Taiwan University College of Law, Dr. Zhang Wen-zhen, to introduce the Tang Prize Laureate in Rule of Law. Dr. Zhang, please.
Thank you, our chairperson and Professor Junrong Ye. I'm honored to introduce this year's Tang Prize Rule of Law Laureate, Professor Cheryl Saunders. She received her PhD in law from University of Melbourne. From 1988 to 2004, she was the founding director of Center for Comparative Constitutional Study at School of Law at Melbourne University. At present, she is Professor Emeritus at Melbourne Law School. From 2003 to 2007, she served as the president of International Association of Constitutional Law, the biggest and the most important global constitutional scholar association. Since then, she becomes the president emeritus of that association. Since 2015 and 2016, she has served as senior advisor to Constitutional Building Program International IDEA, as well as a co-convener of Constitutional Transformation Network, the two organizations that have engaged tremendous efforts in helping constitution building in challenging jurisdictions. Professor Cheryl Saunders has received many important honors and awards. One from home, she received an Order of Australia already in 1994. In 2005, she was awarded as Foundation Fellow from Australian Academy of Law. The most recent one, she was awarded as Corresponding Fellow of British Academy in 2018, among many others. Now I would like to introduce to you the most significant contributions Professor Cheryl Saunders has made. As an academic practitioner, she applies her scholarship to inspire and advise constitution-making exercises with vision, wisdom, and persistence. She has been extensively involved in global constitution building in very challenging contexts, adopting an inclusive approach to build network and pools of expertise. In doing that, she has been extensively and pay full respect to local context in generating trust and sense of ownership, and work with local talents in designing constitution-making procedures. In the field of comparative constitutional law, she is truly a trailblazer. In 1988, when she created the Center for Comparative Constitutional Study, at the time, the entire world of constitutional law has not really paid attention to comparative constitutional studies. But she, as the founding director, devoted much time to develop skills in helping constitution making and constitutional change. Most important and most exceptional is really her inclusive approach to comparative constitutional law. Using a metaphor as gene pool, she appreciates all constitutional experiences and exercise across the board. Rather than looking into the typical jurisdictions like Germany, United States, France, or the advanced democracies in Europe, she has looked to all over the world. She appreciates all the experiences, all the constitutional struggles by the people across different regions. Also unusual is her leadership in International Association of Constitutional Law, the biggest and the most important global constitutional scholars network. As a president, she helped to develop a network and provide a forum for exchange of knowledge and information about constitutional systems. Most importantly, I want to emphasize, she worked very hard to offer a pool of experts from the globe, from which teams may be constructed to examine and provide advice on particular issues. I want to mention that during her presidency as ISCL, she reached out to constitutional scholars in Asia Pacific, including Japan, Korea, Taiwan. And during the 4 years of presidency, she has helped to establish an Asian Constitutional Law Forum. Every 2 years, the forum will be held locally. The first one in 2005 in Korea, the second one in 2007 in Japan. The third one, I'm proudly to say that, was in Taipei, held by National Taiwan University School of Law. And really, through her leadership, the study of comparative constitutional law has taken root in Asia. And I think the most important reason for her to be awarded in this year's Tang Prize, Rule of Law, is really her enormous leadership and efforts in constitutional building in Asia-Pacific region. We all know that Asia-Pacific is characterized by its ethnic diversity and large population, as well as very complex historical, cultural, political systems. The issues raised were very difficult and extremely challenging, and sometimes are really neglected by typical Western American European constitutional law scholars. But Professor Cheryl Saunders was really one of the very first scholars to be engaged in all these difficult challenges with her leadership, with the organizations she led. So with International IDEA, she collaborated with networks of experts and scholars in Asia-Pacific region and elsewhere. From the map, you can see where the challenges are most difficult, where we could find her and her leadership and her applications of comparative constitutional scholars and expertise there. Through the engagement of constitution building, she broadened the understandings of constitutional experiences around the world and gave her insight into how comparative constitutional knowledge can most usefully be shared. These are the regions, the areas she has put herself in. For example, she was engaged in constitution-making processes and constitution-building processes after war in 1990s in South Africa and in Fiji. In 1999, she was in Zimbabwe, assisting in connection with the new constitution, together with the network in African Language Research Institute. In 2001, she was in Eastern Timor, together with Asia Foundation, helping the constitution-making process after the war. In 2002, she was in Myanmar, advising on the role of state constitutions in protection of nationality and minority rights, together with International IDEA. In 2003, she was in Sri Lanka as an expert in technical assistance in relation to constitutional reform by Austrian aid. In 2005, she is in Bhutan, and with the process of constitution making together with the United Nations Development Program. In 2005 to 2007, she was in Iraq as a participant in multi-party dialogue on federation arrangement in Iraq. And that is really the most challenging task, to bind all different ethnic, religious sects together in post-war Iraq. And the list goes on. In 2011, she was in Egypt, and 2013, again in Egypt, trying to build together a post-conflict constitutional reform. In 2013, she was in Nepal meeting with political leaders, lawyers, and others in relation to the constitutional process, try to put together the already delayed, decades delayed constitution-making process. In 2017 and 2019, she was in the Philippines, where when Philippine people was talking about a possibility of revising their constitution from 1987. And again, at the same time, she was engaged in Myanmar, again, trying to talk with different party leaders and local experts on how to build a workable constitution solution after Myanmar's transition. In all these processes, the most important method adopted by Professor Cheryl Saunders is really to facilitate dialogue by engaging talents. So she worked with the Constitutional Transformation Network, founded in 2016, to try to talk to the local talents, to bring into all the local experts. And then she introduced, not from a top-down fashion, but try to develop the methodology to change the Constitution in ways that support the practical concerns of the locals. In other words, very much unlike typical Western advisors going around the globe to talk to or educate to the locals for how to reform their own constitution. Professor Cheryl Saunders engaged with the local experts, engaged with the different local concerns, and discussed with them to try to find the better solution for the locals. And that's how she has been always relentlessly collaborating with networks of experts and scholars, bringing community-based talents along the road, and in engaging in every place reform efforts in Iraq, in Sri Lanka, in Nepal. She always reached out first the local experts, rather than just bringing international talents there. She spent much time in discussing, talking to the local experts. This can be shown in how much she appreciates and also respects for local context. She has embraced local histories, cultures, social and political systems through communications and understandings. Unlike typical scholars, they would just bring the Western ideas to Asia or to any challenging places. She appreciates local histories, discuss with the local people, try to see how then they can make sense of the local histories reflecting from their new constitution. And that's really the much needed patience and expertise for today's comparative constitutional world. And with all these efforts, even though she is an academic practitioner, she has published also very important scholarly work with much inspiring theories as well as practical suggestions for the field of constitutional scholars. I would particularly like to mention one piece from her, published actually in Taiwan, titled Towards a Global Constitutional Gene Pool, appreciating even the constitutional experiences from Sri Lanka, from India, from Nepal, from South Africa, from Fiji. Professor Cheryl Saunders has taken all these experiences and systems and institutions as genes available for the generations and generations of the global constitutional world. So unlike typical Western scholars, she wouldn't emphasize one particular superior version of a constitution or constitutionalism. She appreciates all and work with all the local people together to build a constitution that is for them. With that, I conclude my introduction to Professor Cheryl Saunders, our laureate for Tang Prize Rule of Law this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zhang. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch a video of remarks from the 2022 Tang Prize laureate in Rule of Law, Professor Cheryl Saunders.
Well, as you know, I'm a comparative constitutional lawyer, and comparative constitutional law can make a lot of contributions to the world as we presently have it. It helps with mutual understanding. It helps to identify opportunities and possibilities for change and improving our systems of governance. And it helps us to build a basis for collective action. But to do any of that, we need to pursue certain goals with comparative constitutional law. One is to ensure that we're inclusive in the countries that we consider. There's no use focusing on just 5 or 10 of the states of the world. We need to really consider how countries across the world govern themselves, how they reach that position, what their histories have been. And we need also to develop a genuine mutual understanding, to really understand each other's systems of governance and the way in which we think about them. And I think those are my main contributions. I've been working on those sorts of approaches for decades now. And I think making some headway, of course not alone, working with wonderful people throughout my career. Well, I was overwhelmed, actually. Very humbled by it. I know the other recipients of the Tang Prize for the Rule of Law. I admire them all tremendously. They're very different people. Their contributions to the rule of law have been very different, but very, very profound. And I was humbled and a little bit shocked. I was about to be in their company. So very honoured, in short.
Thank you, and congratulations once again to Professor Saunders. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the 2022 Tang Prize Award announcement in Rule of Law. The Tang Prize Award ceremony will take place on September 23rd this year. We look forward to seeing you then, and this concludes the 2022 Tang Prize Award announcements. Thank you for your participation.